Hello. Okay. Oh, this is great. The room's filling up. I see some of our California Hydrogen Business Council members and some prospective members that I've talked to already are here. Hi, Kirk. This is great. So thanks for having me today. I'm Katrina Fritz, the Executive Director of the California Hydrogen Business Council. We are the largest and longest established trade association in the United States for hydrogen and fuel cells. So we represent over 130 members across all sectors of hydrogen, including South Coast Air Quality Management District, who is here today as well. Many of the different parts of the supply chain for hydrogen and fuel cells. And our mission is really to support the commercialization of hydrogen to help California reach its decarbonization and air quality objectives. So we help our members, we network them with each other to make sure that we're supporting both the large and small businesses. We conduct a lot of advocacy for the policy work that we have to do, which is abundant in California. We also support some of the federal work. And we really promote the industry and the work of our members to show what is happening in California, because we really are an end user market and we have a lot of demand right now that we need to meet. So the different sectors that we cover include goods movement, heavy duty transport, and clean ports with the Port of Los Angeles. We also work with the Port of Oakland and the Port of Long Beach. Public transportation. So right now transit buses are also a hot market in California. We'll go through some of those numbers. And renewable hydrogen, production and delivery and storage. So we convene our members to go through these topics once a month and look at what's happening across the industry. Again, these are, we represent the whole supply chain. So municipalities, federal and state agencies, component suppliers, the fuel cell companies, some of the really big manufacturers like Ballard, Cummins, Plug Power, the IOUs, San Diego Gas and Electric, PG&E, and SoCalGas. And we find that this is a really great way, as you're tackling policy and building consensus, to have all of those different stakeholders at the table. So we convene at many different levels and make sure that we are putting forward policies that help the whole industry, right? That brings everybody together and helps us with our following objectives. So scaling hydrogen mobility and infrastructure to leverage the integrated value of hydrogen in energy infrastructure, to accelerate hydrogen production at scale for a reliable, low-cost supply, and to also support the work of the Federal Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Energy Association. So like the tax credit guidance, for example, 45V, this big topic, this contentious topic, it's really important to all of our members. Even though we're a California organization, we work hand in hand with FCHEA on this topic because for us, the more restrictive guidance would really hinder the market and would hinder a lot of the companies that we work with, and it would hinder California in achieving these objectives in the short, mid, and long term. So I want to talk a little bit specifically about policy today because we are in Washington, D.C. So some of the key drivers in California are policy. There's a very big regulatory environment, right? It's one of the biggest economies in the world, so they have a really big government, and there's 3 agencies we work with: the California Air Resources Board, the Energy Commission, and the Public Utilities Commission. And CARB recently passed an Advanced Clean Fleets rule, which means we will not be able to have diesel-powered trucks on the road by 2045. So there's a transition plan, and that's a really big driver. And what we are hearing from fleet operators who've been testing fuel cell electric trucks and battery electric trucks is that they might need both. It might be one or the other for them, but it depends on how they're using their vehicle. So it's really performance drivers that will help them to choose fuel cell electric trucks, such as they have a very heavy payload. They have to cover a long distance. The fuel cell trucks really perform differently than the battery trucks in this instance. So they want to have both options on the table. So both are eligible as replacement zero emission technology. It's the same for in-use locomotives. There will be no more diesel locomotives on the tracks in California by 2045. So they also have a transition plan, and that is a driver for some of the purchases that have already been made, both for diesel locomotives and for one of the public transit trains in California. And then we have a low carbon fuel standard, which really supports the use of hydrogen for the mobility sector. Again, it's driven by decarbonization and air quality objectives. So California, I think it's unique in that they really have boots on the ground monitoring air quality and addressing air quality with the policy, not just GHG emissions, right? Not just decarbonization. So the criteria air pollutant emissions are terrible in California, and the air districts really do see hydrogen and fuel cells as a way to immediately replace the diesel that's being used either for backup power or for vehicles in their district. The hydrogen market development strategy is new. The governor's office announced that they will be putting together this hydrogen market development strategy over the next year. And this is really integral. So this is to look at all of these programs that are in place and what's happening in the market in California. Who are all of the different technology suppliers? You know, what's feasible? So we'll be giving inputs with our members into this strategy to the Governor's Office of Economic Development, who's putting it together, to really inform that strategy. And we hope that that guiding document really helps kind of push some of the agencies along in their thinking and inclusion of hydrogen even more deeply. SB 1075, that's a report on how we're going to develop, deploy, and use hydrogen led by CARB. And then the CEC, Energy Commission, is also working on a report for hydrogen. So you can see there's a lot going on. I think the big challenge for all of us is to make sure it's truly integrated, right? That when we have this much policy, that it's not conflicting, but it's all supportive. And then permitting, you've heard permitting as a very big topic, right? The governor's office has said they will expedite permitting. Our job is to make sure hydrogen's included in that that's not just for wind and solar and other resources. So here's some of the numbers provided by the Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Partnership. I had to turn in my slides before September 27th, but since the numbers as of September 27th, there's more than 17,500 cars on the road in California, hydrogen and fuel cell vehicles. There are 66 electric buses, fuel cell electric buses right now operating in California. Since this slide was put together, Santa Cruz Metropolitan Transit Authority announced the purchase of 57 fuel cell electric buses. We see the public transit sector as a great opportunity for public outreach as well, right? There's a lot of people today now riding around in fuel cell electric buses that run on hydrogen in California. There's 57 operating refueling stations, 54, sorry, and then 3 truck stations. So that's one of our policy initiatives, is to get more funding for these fueling stations for the fuel cell electric trucks as well, to support the growth of that sector. Power generation, we have over 320 megawatts of stationary fuel cells installed across California. Some of these pictures show Plug Power, Bloom Energy, and High Axiom Doosan Company fuel cell systems. Maritime and rail, I mentioned this. So there is now an order for 29 intercity trains in San Bernardino County through the California Transportation Authority, Caltrans, and these are Stadler trains with Ballard fuel cells. Valley Link, Tri-Valley and San Joaquin Valley Regional Rail Authority, that's another passenger train that's running. And the Sea Change. So this is the first ship that's sailing, let's say, it's a ferry across the San Francisco Bay. That's a hydrogen ferry as well. So you can see the growth across sectors in California, and the demand is going up because, again, of their decarbonization and air quality targets. I love this one. This is now operational. So Toyota Logistics Services at the Port of Long Beach has worked with Fuel Cell Energy, Fast Tech, and the Fiedler Group, all members of the California Hydrogen Business Council, to install a large fuel cell energy system that provides combined heat and power to the Toyota facility at the Port of Long Beach. That fuel cell system also produces hydrogen. this is the facility where the mirais come off the ship from Japan. So they use the byproduct water to wash the cars. They use the hydrogen that's produced to fuel the cars and to fuel a fleet of heavy-duty equipment that's being tested at the port. That's Toyota equipment as well. So it's a nice sustainable project. It kind of functions like a microgrid, and we hope to see this replicated more and more at ports. Another hot topic in California is pipelines. So pipeline blending is up to, I think, 40% right now in Hawaii every day. The Hawaii Gas already blends hydrogen to decarbonize its pipeline today. In California, it's a really big, long process to be able to blend, and they haven't set those standards yet. So right now, there are hydrogen blending pilot projects, and they are to support an application that has been filed with the Public Utilities Commission to allow certain levels of blending, right? Up to 20%, up to 5%. So this chart, just nice, this is a public chart that was used in one of the public workshops, nicely summarizes what's happening with SoCalGas, SDG&E, Southwest Gas, and PG&E. So they all have their own discrete blending projects that will support this application and ultimately allow the PUC to establish to what level can be blended in California. I think this will be a few years, but at least it's on its way now. Angeles Link. So Southern California Gas Company has proposed a purpose-built hydrogen pipeline. This is a very long process. The FERC commissioner in the other room was just talking about how long regulatory process takes. So they're proposing to move renewable hydrogen across Southern California in a common carrier pipeline, meaning there would be access points along the way from which you could fuel the heavy-duty trucks I talked about, the transit buses, stationary power generation, ultimately ending up at LADWP, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and their power generation facility. So this is currently at this stage of scoping the feasibility study. So that will tell you how long the process is, right? So we're in the process of scoping it. I sit on the project advisory group. They also have a community advisory group. So environmental justice and equity, you've heard about it a lot. It's very big in DC, and this is a huge topic in California too, because the communities most disproportionately impacted by GHG and by the poor air quality are the disadvantaged communities. So they are at the table as we talk about the impacts of this pipeline. What could the positive impacts be? What are the potential negative impacts? And they will be studied in great detail before the PUC allows this to go to the next stage. Biogenic sources of hydrogen, another big policy topic. There's different, I would almost call them opinions in the Capitol in Sacramento about should we allow the use of biogenic sources of hydrogen, or should we only allow electrolytic hydrogen to be used in California? The CHBC and its members are of the opinion we should include everything that's currently part of the Renewable Portfolio Standard in California, which would also include biogenic sources of hydrogen. So this is an example of a Raven SR project in Richmond at the West Contra Costa landfill. So this is an organic waste to hydrogen project. That there was a lot of, let's say, community input on this one as well, but in the end it was permitted, we're happy to say. One lesson that was learned is engage with the communities early. It's really important if you're putting a hydrogen project together to consider, anyone, again, who could be impacted and bring them to the table early on. Safety. So I mentioned that we work closely with the Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Energy Association. We also work very closely with the Center for Hydrogen Safety. Nick Barillo, he may still be here. He was here yesterday. We really want to make sure that we are advancing, engaging in a safety culture. When something happens, we're not going to spread rumors. We're not going to pontificate, right? We will wait until we have the official information and publicize that among our members, but we also partner with CHS to make sure that if our members need safety resources or if the public has questions, this is where we direct them. All right. Wow, right on time. So I have 4 seconds left. Okay. I'm happy to answer questions. I'll be around all day. So thank you very much for your attention.